This episode of Another Happy Pod is going to contain spoilers. If you've not experienced the content yourself, please go ahead and do so before coming back and listening to the boys ramble on about it. Thank you very much.
In a world where hatred is monetized and toxicity thrives, we would rather talk about the stuff that we like in the realm of pop culture. Now, we don't always succeed with that, but no matter what, we always keep things light-hearted and fun. This is Another Happy Pod. My name is Nathan, and as always, I'm joined by Lawrence. Hello, how are you?
I'm well. I'm actually on camera waiting to see your little face pop up.
Oh, are you?
I am. I thought I'd surprise you.
Oh.
Go
Yeah,
on,
there you are.
Get your face involved.
No, I'm alright.
Oh, come on, don't make me just sit here.
No, you can just sit there.
No, this is
I'm
uncomfortable
okay.
now.
Oh, well, you chose your bed. You lie in it.
I did. I am
Yeah.
going to lie in it. I'm well, sir. How are you, sir?
I am good. A little hungry, but that's another story. But yeah, otherwise I'm good.
No, go on. Explain your sass. Go on.
No.
Explain your sly little dig. Go on.
No, it's fine. I'll have lunch another time, Lawrence. So we're today is the 110th anniversary of a bunch of people dying.
Yeah.
So,
get the champers out for the lads.
Champers out 110 years ago. Just a whole bunch of people just fucking drowned and froze and were crushed and all kinds of shit.
What an elegant and delicate way of putting it. Oh, there's no survivors still alive, are there?
No, absolutely not. It was
They're
110
long dead.
years. They would have had to have been like born the very night that it sunk, and then also be the oldest person in the world as well. So yeah, there is absolutely no survivors left.
I thought about this. Just this is not unrelated, but just a quick little thing to start us.
Oh, it's Titanic, by the way.
Hello, Titanic. Quick little thing to start us on. Do you think there was anyone in the world that managed to survive the Titanic, World War One, and World War Two?
There is a story about a guy because okay,
is it Clive's story of the Doctor? It's just in every other picture.
No, I am kind of weird. I don't know if you know this, but I'm kind of weirdly fascinated and obsessed with the Titanic. I
didn't know this at all.
Yeah, I read up about it a lot. If there's ever a documentary on the Titanic, I will watch this shit out of it. I don't know why. It's just one of those events from history which just completely fascinates me. Yeah. So I like fucking learning as much about it as possible. And there is a story of a guy who did actually survive the Titanic. He's actually in the movie. He's, the guy at the end where Jack and Rose are on the back of the ship, and there's the guy like all in white who looks across at them.
Does he look more at Rose than Jack?
Yeah.
When Rose turns and she sees the man and then the woman.
Yeah, that's right. That guy, he then went on. He survived the sinking. He then went on and fought in World War One, survived that, and then he also fought in World War Two as well.
He'd have been quite old in World War Two.
I don't think he's as old as he is depicted in the movie, but he survived both of those things, and bloody, it's wild because I don't know about you, but I never go fucking anywhere near the sea again if I survived this.
Yeah, no, I'm not like... I'd be scared to even get in the lifeboat out after being on that boat. You know? Yeah, this is one of them movies. There's been movies about like tragedies before that have kind of made you go, oh, that's kind of sad. But this is the movie that really makes you go, oh my fucking Lord. Like, imagine being... like having to go through this. It would be it'd be terrible.
I've said it quite a few times in my notes, but there really are some moments of horror in this movie, and not how you would expect. And of course it's a movie, it's a dramatic fucking retelling, but some of the stuff that actually happened on the night itself, it would be fucking terrifying, especially for the fact that it's in the middle of the ocean and it's pitch black and it's fucking freezing cold as well. That would just absolutely add to the fear. But yeah, we are getting a little bit ahead. I want to know your relationship with Titanic, as it were,
Well,
the movie.
I was gonna say I wasn't born.
Yeah,
Uh,
good joke. Well done.
no, I like the movie. The first time I saw it was I was quite young. I saw it with my mum. It's not one of them. It's one of the movies that I think often it's not hard to return to because I don't think it's the most accessible film in the world, but that's not a bad thing against the movie at all. I just think that it's a heavy emotional film to watch, and it's also 3 hours long. So
It's
it's
not a casual watch at all. You can't just
yeah,
throw this on. You got to get ready for it.
it, yeah,
It's got to be
exactly.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of so it's been a while since I've come back to it. I think the last time I saw it was about 6, 7 years ago or so. Um, and yeah, this time returning to it, like it's devastating, but it's also like quite like you say, it's a fascinating movie, and it does give you a wider interest because it's not just telling the story of. There's also like some modern day stuff, and there's a bit of a subplot about like how people tend to look at it as just a factual sad event, but hearing a story from someone that was actually there can change your perspective and go, oh, you know what, I don't actually care about looking for like a fucking stupidly expensive diamond because a lot of people died here and it's kind of insensitive. um, but yeah, it's a good movie. Very, it makes you think quite a lot, I think.
It does. It's a movie I enjoy quite a lot, and I've always enjoyed it. I first saw it when I don't know how old I would have been, like fucking 5 or 6 maybe. I remember my mum had it on VHS, and it was so fucking big. It came in a massive box with 2 videotapes
The way
because it
Chris
couldn't.
Nolan intended.
Exactly, yeah, because it couldn't fit onto one. So I remember watching it a lot as a kid, and again, just been weirdly fascinated with it. But yeah, I don't think I've seen it for about well, exactly 10 years, because I would have seen it at the 3D re-release for the 100th anniversary. Um,
Sorry,
so
this is just really insightful towards being a friend of you. Like this is, I had no idea that you were this like invested and interested in it. Where does that come from? Like, do you
I
have a
have no idea. Could not tell you. It's just something I've hooked onto. It's kind of the same thing with 9/11 as well. I don't know
yeah,
why, but it's just something I'm. It's a morbid fascination because it's just one of those events where a lot of people died and like very quickly as well. And
yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's just it's horrific, but it's also fascinating.
Do you know if there's any conspiracy theories surrounding it? Because that might be a part. Like everyone has an interest in conspiracy
Yeah,
theories.
there's all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of like stuff about who actually is to blame for what happened because there's a lot of like incompetency around the Titanic. Like, something that's brought up in the film is the fact that there's not enough lifeboats aboard because it would spoil the view for the first class passengers, which in itself is just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah,
Um, um, so there's that. There's the fact that the binoculars weren't aboard. Some people think that's like a big misstep, but apparently that wouldn't have had any effect anyway because with how dark it was, you wouldn't have been able to see fuck all until like the iceberg was pretty much right in front of you anyway.
yeah,
So there's a lot of different things. A lot of people blame the captain because he was just like completely frozen with indecision as the ship started to sink. He just did not have a fucking clue what to
yeah,
do, and that's not out of like an experience because he was a very experienced captain. It's more just like the facts, the horrors of it, I guess. Like throughout the entire event, he never once called to abandon ship. Like the crew had to make that decision themselves, and even then, like a lot of the crew didn't actually know what was going on. There's a
yeah.
story about the ship's quartermaster. He's like just doing some work in his cabin, and then out of his fucking porthole window, he sees a fucking lifeboat row past, and he calls up to the main bridge and is like, "What the fuck's going on?" Just because he didn't know, like no one fucking told him.
Jesus.
Um, yeah, it's wild.
I mean, like
So
it's one of them things where like I guess people theorizing it today, like I think it's very easy to be like, well, the captain of the ship should have ordered this. But if you're there, man, like
yeah,
if you're
yeah,
there, you're like I said this, like there's a scene where this young kid is just like Rose and Jack are running down the halls trying to find a way out, and there's this young kid that's just water's pouring in around him, and he's just frozen and screaming. And like
yeah,
I found it funny that the movie chose like a 6-year-old for that to be, because that would just still be me. like a 25-year-old, I'd just be there going, like I'd have
Yeah,
no idea what to do.
you wouldn't know what to do at all, and there are some adults that you see throughout the movie in that same situation as well. It's fucking terrible because what can you do when it's at that point? Really, what can you do?
What it is I think the biggest fear, and the movie plays on this really well, is you're confronted with two horrific things. One
Yeah,
is that you're facing your own certain imminent death.
yes,
And the second thing is your survival is entirely dependent on a bunch of people who are scrambling, panicking, and have no idea what the fuck is going on. It's like
yes,
it's like, for example, let's say if you lost all your money, right, and you called up some sort of helpline, but you have to go through like a year-long waiting list. Like it's nonsensical. You're not going to get the money for when you need the money. You're not going to get off this boat by the time you need to be off it to survive. Like it's one of them things where you have to put your faith in a bunch of people who you don't know, while simultaneously doing it whilst avoiding like the water rising. Like it's so much would have to go right for you to survive this.
oh yeah, absolutely. And the odds of you actually surviving it are fucking. They're not good. Let's put it that way. They're
How
really
many did survive? Do you know?
not many. So in the movie itself, older Rose says that uh, minus the people who were on the lifeboats, so people who were on the ship when it went down, 1,500 went into the water. 1,500 people, and
Mm.
six of them were pulled out.
I can imagine,
Six
and I can imagine
survived,
that's
which
quite an
is
accurate number because a lot of this is quite true to life.
this
Um,
is probably the most. There's been quite a few adaptations of Titanic over the years. This is what's regarded as the most faithful because James Cameron is a bit of a weird bloke, but like me, he's also weirdly obsessed with the Titanic, and
mm,
he's actually spent more time with the Titanic than the people who were actually aboard it as well because he's just like constantly down there in a submarine or whatever.
yeah. Yeah,
So
I read about that. He spent like so much time down there. Like he got like he got all the stuff he needed to, but then he just had to go down there like more and more just to like experience it.
yeah,
Which is, I mean, like you're gonna do it because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, obviously, or for his case, like a seven in a lifetime opportunity. But like it's like that. I don't know if I'd be emotionally ready for like how much like I don't want to say like grief, but like just that sheer emotional impact of loss of life.
it
Like,
would be very overwhelming. I know that like the first time he went down, after he came back up, he just burst into tears because he didn't know how else to react to it because
yeah,
it was just that completely overwhelming. I find it really interesting and again fascinating that like pretty much all the shots of the actual Titanic wreck in the movie are the actual Titanic wreck. Like it's not CGI unless we're
yeah.
talking about like those transition shots, but the actual like wreckage of the movie, that's all genuine, and that's fascinating. That's
It's
it's really interesting to see.
it's certainly something as well, and you like when you consider that like it's just too massive to ever have like been removed, and like too much time has passed. Like it's there. Like that's history, and it
And
kind of
it's not gonna be there for much longer, sadly.
is it
Because
not?
no, because it's like it's famously been eroding for quite a few years now. The estimates are by 2030 it'll be completely gone, which is like 8 years.
Fuck.
So yeah, really not much longer. Yeah, they can't put it out because like it would just completely fucking disintegrate if they did.
Oh yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's a shame that in a
It's
few
yeah.
years they'll be gone.
Its pure structure is probably just contingent on it having been in place for so many years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a bit about the movie. So like the
Yes.
movie, it does a lot. It does a lot in terms of like historically remaining faithful. Like you said, it's one of the most faithful adaptations. It's regarded as such. But like the two characters are completely fictitious, which is kind of interesting. Um, especially when there's probably survivor stories that could have been told. But I think this is a better way to do it.
I do
Um,
too. Yeah, I think it's a good decision to go with a fictional couple wrapped up in the story of a real life event.
mm,
If you do go down the route of actual survivors, then number one, you're very limited in what you can say.
Well, it probably wasn't that interesting, was it?
Exactly, that's what was going to be number two. Number two wouldn't be anywhere near as interesting. And number
What were
three,
you doing a couple of days before it sank? Oh, just hanging around, playing pool.
yeah,
I had a few brandies. You know how it is.
exactly. It wouldn't be anywhere near as interesting. So yeah, the kind of Romeo and Juliet on a boat essentially is probably the best way to sum it up. It's really good. It works for it, I think, and both Leo and Kate. This changed their fucking lives, but
Oh
it,
yeah,
yeah, this would have like just completely opened everything up for them. But yeah, I think they're really good in it.
yeah. I think they're brilliant in it, and I like that this. So like one of the interesting things is it's not just a. I mean, it is a Romeo and Juliet type story, even down to like the class structure and everything. You know, like Rose would be on the Capulets side because they're money and status, and Jack would be the Montagues, kind of poor but loyal. Um, and there's a really interesting kind of discussion to be had about like classism on this. Um,
Yeah,
and you see, obviously, Rose goes through her own journey, even though she's not a bad person to start with at all, but she goes on her own kind
no,
of. She has her eyes opened a bit. And the one of the best characters in this is the biggest prick ever put to screen. He's really interesting just because of the fact that he represents like kind of the animalistic impulse that a human is capable of in this film. Like he's clambering and clawing away at every possible avenue he has to escape. Um, and like it's very easy to point and say that's a stupid thing to do, but like people are capable of doing that, and you don't know what you do until you get put in those scenarios. I know that he's the bad guy of the movie, but also there was a lot of other people doing the same shit. But like, do you know what I mean?
Billy Zane is very good at playing just the fucking worst person in the world. He really nails just the you want to punch him so fucking bad. He really is just a cunt throughout the movie. From the moment we're introduced to him, he lets you know exactly the kind of guy he is. He's very much of that time. He's obviously going to be rooted in fucking misogyny. He's clearly just out for himself. Rose is an accessory at best to him.
Yeah.
Whenever he's talking about Rose, he's always talking about her in terms of himself. Like she's his wife, she's his fiance. She's damaging his image and all this sort of stuff. Which
He's
is,
not even
it's
upset. Like he's not even upset that she's gone off to fuck another man. He's just like, how does this make me look? And
yeah, exactly. Even the fact that he gets that kid, and at first you're like, oh, okay, he's going to help the kid. No, he doesn't give a fuck about the kid. It's purely so he can fucking worm his way onto a boat. And then the second, like, that boat, he fucks the kid off. That kid probably died, okay? And
Yeah.
he was just there beating other people off with a fucking oar to stop them getting onto his boat. He is, the worst person
Yeah.
ever. And I'm glad he's not real because I wouldn't like to speak ill of the dead, but fuck him.
Well, yeah, I don't think like I think if anyone, I don't know too much about the survivors' stories from the Titanic, but I can imagine if this was really what happened, you're not going to come out and admit that. Like you're going to be like, "Oh, I was lucky to get out of there with my life and live with the shame." But
Yeah,
yeah, it's interesting, but it's one of the things. It's why the movie does benefit from having a fictitious set of characters in a real world setting.
yeah, absolutely. Because
Because
then you can play it up, you can have the villain and that sort of stuff.
yeah,
So
exactly.
you're not besmirching anyone's name, which this movie kind of did, actually, a little bit.
Did it? I'd like
Yeah.
to hear about that.
So the Officer Murdoch, who shot himself in the head,
Yes.
he was a real life person, but it kind of didn't go down like that at all. He actually helped people quite a lot and stuff. And I guess they just wanted like an extra element of drama in there and stuff. So they added kind of that storyline to his character. And they've like over the years there have been like stuff about his family like coming out and be like, well, this is kind of shit because this didn't happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's a massive shame that like it's necessary, and it's definitely a moment in the movie you really go, oh, they are all fucked.
Yeah,
Like it's needed for the stakes to increase because by that point the ship's been sinking for an hour. The audience are going, all right, we know it's sinking. We need something else.
yeah,
Um, but at the same time, yeah, like I didn't realize that was a real man. That's kind of a shame because they don't only make him appear like like, well, they have him literally kill himself, but before he does that, he shoots two people trying to, you know, save themselves, and they're kind of lower class people as well. It kind of paints him as a bit of a dick.
A bit of a yeah, yeah. So a memorial fund was created for the high school, which has been named after him. Residents of the town have rejected and requested an apology for the depiction in the movie. And yeah, 20th Century Fox presented a £5,000 check to the fund, but did not offer a formal apology. So
What a weird thing to
yeah,
do.
yeah. James Cameron said that his depiction of Murdoch was not meant to be negative. He said it was probably a mistake to portray a specific person in that way.
Oh, I thought you were like the director of the film was like, I didn't mean for that to happen. What do you mean? What do you mean a character that I wrote shot himself? No, did I shoot that? My bad. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
no. I mean, yeah. Like, at the same time, unfortunately, like as tragic as that is, and as sad as that is for some of like his surviving family members and stuff, he was part of one of the world's biggest tragedies and losses of life of all time. It's
yeah.
Movies are going to take liberties to tell the story, and I think that ultimately
Yeah,
movies.
it will, but I feel like you could have. I don't think that was absolutely vital to his character. Like, you could have had an officer with another name who didn't exist and give him that exact same role. Like, it easily could have been avoided.
Yeah, that's very
But
true.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that striving for like a true to life thing, they probably got wrapped up in making everyone a person that needed to be a
They
person.
did. That's very very much true. I know that James Cameron, he's so fucking obsessed with it that he personally wrote out like backstories for 150 extras, which were like based on actual surviving accounts and people who were on the Titanic, actual passengers and stuff. And he like instructed the extras on their character and their backstory and this type of stuff, just because he had like all that information and knowledge about it all. So like,
Jesus.
even like a character you'll see just walking past on the back on the screen in the back, they're like someone with a family and a history and all that sort of stuff, which is a little unnecessary but also kind of cool.
Yeah, I think the thing is, it definitely is it's unnecessary, but for a kind of a set piece and a sequence like this to work and and be directed, and for them to be destroying such massive sets and etc., you need to really buy into that sheer panic. You know, when you watch like a monster movie and you see a crowd of people running away, the monster's not there. They're probably not even a city. They're probably in a soundstage,
Yeah,
and it's like 100 people just going ah and running away, right? You
and you're
believe.
just like, this person does not exist out of this scene.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
also you believe it for the context of the movie, but you don't it doesn't evoke a reaction. Whereas every
yeah,
single extra that I saw running or fighting for their life in the background, I was kind of like attached to, like
yeah.
only for that scene. Obviously, I wasn't like, oh come on, get rid of Leonardo DiCaprio. I want to see what woman 34 is doing. But at the
Well, there's the what gets me every time, and I don't know why. I think it's like since the first time I watched this, I've cried at the scene, but literally every single time. There's two specific shots, and they're subsequent as well. They're one after the other.
I think I know
Uh,
exactly the shots you mean.
yeah, you probably do. Old man and woman in the bed as the
Yep.
water floods in around them, and then the mother putting her kids to bed, knowing they're gonna die.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking stuff, man. Heartbreaking.
It's just it's extremely emotional, and it catches that shot specifically. It catches you off guard because
It really does. Yeah.
it's a case of, I think at that point people expect the movie to be wrapping up, and they expect Rose has got to be found, and and Jack and Rose have had their emotional don't let go of that dream. You're gonna go have babies, whatever. Um, but then you come back, and it's just what you're forced to see is the aftermath of it, and
Yeah.
that the point of that scene I think is very much so that those people on the boats, like the people that the one boat that came back, good on you. The other people, it's just meant to put them in such a higher kind of bit of shame, if that makes sense.
Even like the moment immediately after the ship goes down, and I love this, but this is a really good just visual moment. The way like it starts on Rose, and you like see her come up out of the water, and then like the camera pulls back, and you just see the fucking scope and just how many people are there, all terrified, all just floundering. not knowing any idea what to do, all panicking, all screaming. And as like the scenes go on, as like Rose and Jack they get to the door, we'll talk about the door, as they all go through all that sort of stuff, the screams just gradually get quieter and quieter
Yeah.
as they die off. It's really good. It's really fucking. This is a really well made movie, and like I say, James Cameron is a bit of a weird bloke, but I cannot take this away from him. Like this is
to kind of drop out of the like the heartbreak of it all. Like the movie making is something that I did want to talk about in this, because I think this is a really well crafted film. Like,
yes,
am I under like? Do I think many movies justify being 3 hours long? No, I do not.
no.
Do I think this one does? Yes. Because you need to see the lives of these people, and you need to see
Yeah.
how negligent some people can be. You also need to be entrenched in the high society of it all to just understand the pure. How could this happen to me? I'm rich.
You need to get mad.
You do,
And I do.
yeah.
I do get mad watching this movie. Like, I love this movie, but there are times where I get so fucking frustrated just because of the classism and the absolute bullshit that's going on. Like I say with the lifeboats, that is fucking ridiculous. The fact that you're not putting lifeboats on the ship because it's going to spoil the view for the First of all, what fucking view? You're at sea.
Yeah.
It's the same view all around, okay? It's just miles of nothing. All right. Second of all, like, this is people's lives, and then the fact that like the third class and steerage passengers, they got locked down below whilst the other people were getting like fucking put on the boats first. The fact that Rose's
do we know
mum
if that's
says, like,
true? The third class and the lower class.
it's not so much that they were locked in. What happened is like because of the sheer because obviously there's a lot more like second and third class passengers than first class. Because of the sheer volume of those passengers, there was only really one place for them to go to evacuate, and they kind of like all got bottlenecked in, all trying to escape. So it's not more a case of them getting locked in, but they were kind of like all stuck together in there.
I see. Right. Okay. So it wasn't the let's go and drown the poor people.
Yeah, no, it wasn't specifically that. It is a good element to add into this movie, though, another element of drama.
Yeah.
And I do like the moment where they knock down the door and the Irish guy just fucking clocks.
Yeah, you see him like, oh, you can't go that way, and just fucking wipes him out. Yeah.
That's a good moment.
I think at that point you would lose your inhibition. You're like, look, there's a 90% chance I'm dead anyway. I'd just smash his head into the wall and be like, oh well, you're a cunt. Like,
why not?
Yeah.
Eat the rich, which
rich.
I will continue to say. Yeah, but it is. I think you do need to get mad watching this movie, and this is clearly a fucking commentary on classism in this movie, and the British class system, which seeped its way into America at the time. It's really something like it warns against, and there is moments, like there is times where I'm watching this and I'm like, yeah, Rose, but she's rich, so she's not really like got that much problems. And I'm like, no, but she does.
Yeah.
She does, because she even says it herself, poor little rich girl. What issues could she possibly have? But the fact that she fully embraces walking away from that life and without a fucking moment's hesitation, and the fact that she does as well. She had the life of luxury offered up to her on a plate. She absolutely could have taken, even after it all fucking went down, even when the boat was sunk and she was on the fucking Carpathia at the end of it, she still had a chance to get it all back, but she didn't.
Yeah.
She was like, fuck that. I was so unhappy in that life. That's not who I am. I'm going to make it on my own. And she did. She had a full fucking life because of it.
I think there's a really lovely line in the end of this where she says, she's speaking about Jack when she's old. And she says that he saved me in every way that a person can be saved, which is very telling, because obviously it's a movie about, Jack technically did offer his space up, and, and she wouldn't have survived that without Jack, I don't think.
No, absolutely not.
But then also he was the person that, like, from the very first time they met, he pointed it out to her. Like, he saved her a good 3 times in the movie. Like, it's...
But also the fact that, like, you could argue as well that even if she didn't go with Jack and she stayed with Cal and her mother, she probably would have survived without any incident. She probably would have been the same boat on as her mum and as Kathy Bates and all that sort of stuff, and wouldn't have had an issue. But then she would have still been locked in that life. And what life would that have been for her? How would it have played out? Nowhere near as happy as the life she had, I'm willing to bet. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I say, like you say, he did definitely save her. And I'm kind of cynical when it comes to, romance storylines in movies. I'm always a bit jaded by them, and we've said this many times, like movies especially where characters confess their love after a short time. I'm always like, do you though? How long have you known this person?
Yeah,
Come on,
yeah.
that's a bit much. I believe it in this though.
Mm.
I don't know why, but I do buy it. When Rose says that she loves him, like there's not a part of me that's like, come on. I'm like, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Well, that's good character work though, because from the second we meet Rose, she's a free thinker and an artist. Jack comes aboard, who's an artist. It's very, there's a lot
Yeah.
of movie coincidences, which is obviously nice plot stuff, but it flows together. And because the movie is so long, you forget all those coincidences, like
Yeah.
because it's not compressed into a 2-hour time period where the movie has to be like the second we meet Jack, we find out he's an artist. We don't. We find it out, and a little bit in, and they have their like. It's a slow burner relationship, which I think is really good. And it's still being built while the ship is sinking. It's not like they're in love and they're going to run away together, and then the ship starts sinking. Like
Only really starts just before they like
really,
officially anyway.
yeah,
Yeah. But it's really good stuff, that relationship, and it's again another tragedy, the fact that it was so short and that they didn't get to spend their lives together, because I'm sure it would have been amazing for them both, what could have been. But yeah, here's a note that I have. Wrote this like towards the beginning of the movie. And then it just says, it was a slave ship. Look, not the best choice of words, but I see what you're saying, Rose. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it is a little bit like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're from that time. I see what you're saying. I'll give you a miss, I guess. Young Leo is very handsome, as is Kate Winslet. Just trying not to think about the fact that Rose is 17.
Oh, is
So,
she?
yep.
Yuck, yuck, yuck.
Yep. Just try not to think about that too much.
Draw me like one of your PG-13 clothed French ladies.
Fun fact, James Cameron drew the titties. That was his hand drawing the picture.
Oh, good.
And he drew that. This movie was also written, directed, produced, and edited all by the same man, that being James Cameron as well.
That's such a fucking workload, isn't it? Like,
yeah, that's insane. That's how like kind of obsessed and like kind of protective, I guess, he is over it.
it's really well edited. There's great visual gag. This is not a funny movie, but there's a good moments of comedy. Like there's the classic I'm gonna scream cut to the foghorn of the boat.
Yeah.
Then there's a lot of there's some funny moments. Did you think at the beginning, especially, that the character of Cal was just a walking jinx? Like he
What do you mean?
like you said, there's a moment where he comes on the boat and he's like, this ship's unsinkable. They say it's unsinkable. It's the most unsinkable boat ever. Lifeboats? What do you need them for? It's unsinkable. And then Rose is like, oh, this is a Picasso. And he's like, he won't amount to anything. Mark my words. He's going to be shit on a shoe. What a dickhead.
I I see what you're saying. I think he's more just intended because like he's probably the character in like the upper class that we spend the most time with outside of Rose, because she's a little bit different.
Yeah.
I think he's just used a lot to convey that, just what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of like blindness, I guess. The just kind of naivety and just everything's fine. Don't worry about it. Like there's the moment where like literally everyone is fucking panicking. Life jackets on, and that guy's just like, no, I'll have a brandy and I'll wear my shooting tails, and that'll be that, and we'll go down for Queen and Country. And like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You fucking stupid cunt. Like, people are dying here. Come on.
One thing that I like, it always shock. I mean, it doesn't shock me because it's very like the movies led you to believe that it would happen. And it probably would in this day and age as well. It's like people are like handing out life vests and stuff like that. And he's like, I'll tell you what, I would take a brandy though. And it's like, do you think he's a waiter? And also, right now,
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
It's pretty ridiculous. But also as well, like some of the crew were going along with it though, because like again, there was the misinformation, but there was also that's just what they did. There was the fucking there's a great moment in the movie, like as like just after the iceberg is hit and people are starting to put life jackets on and shit. Like the crew are going around and informing passengers, and you just see the stark fucking difference in like the way it's handled between the classes and the passengers. Like the first class, that guy comes in, he's like, life jackets on, everyone out on deck. It's a little bit cold, so I request tops and tails. Get your overcoats on. Here, might I recommend this? Here's a nice number for you. Cut to a guy just kicking open a door in third class, shoving the fucking life jackets on the door, saying "Wake up, get out," and then moving on to the next one.
yeah.
It's a great contrast. It's funny, but also a
I
little
mean,
bit tragic as
it's
well at the same time.
yeah, but then like saying that, I know what deck I'd rather be on. I want the information
Yeah,
quickly, and I want the life jacket. Like, don't worry. Oh, it's a bit chilly. I might recommend a nice hat. Fuck off. Like, what's
yeah,
that hat gonna do? Right? But yeah, no, it's. I think it is a scathing commentary. This film, and it's really really effective. There's a
yeah,
lot of moments on this where they just I said it earlier, but like they cannot fathom that this could happen on a boat that they paid to be on. It's
yeah. Exactly. They believed the marketing. They said the Titanic was completely unsinkable. They fully bought into and believed that, so much so that like when the lifeboats were going down, like, no, this is unsinkable. Like, what are you doing? I'll take my chances here, thanks. And then they fucking paid for it. They fucking they died because of like just buying into it and just thinking that no, it can't happen to me. I'll be
yeah.
all right.
What
It's
what did you think of the characters in this that are like I presume they won't have been all based on real people, obviously. Um, but what I liked the kind of second storyline going on in this, which was um, that them having the iceberg warning, but still being told you need to make headlines, speed up, get to places earlier so we can make the morning papers. All of
yeah.
that feels very compelling, but almost too movie to be true. Is there any truth to that at all?
A lot of truth to it. There is a lot of truth to it. This is why, like, like you were saying earlier about conspiracy theories and like who to blame and sort of stuff. This is where a lot of it comes from, because the movie doesn't necessarily focus on it specifically, but yeah, throughout you do get just little bits of like the guy saying, let's speed it up, make New York by a day early. That happened. That was true. The fact that I think they got 6 warnings about icebergs, and didn't react to any of them. They were just like, "No, it'll be fine. We'll carry on as normal. No need to slow down. It's a nice cool night, nice calm night. The water's pretty calm." Interestingly enough, calm water, we now know, didn't at the time, but we now know that like crystal clear, calm, still water is like a sign of pack ice and like a death sign, essentially.
Fucking hell.
If you're out at sea and you see like still very calm, very still water, that means there's fucking pack ice and icebergs all around. They didn't know that at the time, obviously. They just thought, oh, it's nice, not choppy, perfect night for sailing.
Yeah, not a storm, therefore we're good.
Yeah, exactly,
How
exactly.
did right? So,
And then
if you've read into a lot of this stuff, how does negligence to this degree happen on such a like a prestigious event boat carrying a lot of
it's
important people?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say one specific reason, because it's not. It's a lot of things all working against it. A lot of people worked on the Titanic. There's a lot of things that kind of go wrong. There's the classism, which is a big part of it. Like I say, with the lifeboats, there's negligence of just people forgetting binoculars, people forgetting necessary equipment that they need. There's the whole press element about people wanting to make a statement, not necessarily worrying too much about safety and buying in to that naivety and marketing of it all, and just saying like, speed it up. Like, we can't go wrong. We're unsinkable. So
It
let's.
seems like it was a boat full of people that were all so experienced that they kind of considered them invincible, and all it takes is one serious fuck up.
Hubris. That's exactly it. That's really what it is. Like, they had a very experienced captain, someone who had served many passages going, across the Atlantic, on both ways. So he'd done a lot of experience. He'd done a lot of ships. sailing across the Atlantic doesn't necessarily prepare you for going down in it, though. So,
Mm.
like, when that actually comes, just because he's got a lot of experience of, voyages and sailing across doesn't mean he's got any experience of crashes and sinking and how to handle
Well,
that
I guess
situation.
today there'd be simulations, there'd be drills, there'd
This
be.
is a thing. There was supposed to be as well, but they didn't. They wanted to like meet the deadline and get the Titanic going as quick as possible. Because another thing is, the Titanic also had competitors. It had other, ships vying for, the fastest ship across the. Not that the Titanic was going for the fastest, but the most attractive to customers, I guess.
Yeah, like the most
Like this
luxurious
was
method of traveling.
exactly, yeah, the best way to travel across the Atlantic. Because yeah, so they was supposed to be like drills and procedures and other stuff like that. They didn't do any kind of like dry run. They didn't do a test run of the voyage or anything. They just like the first time it set sail was pretty much from Southampton to
Fucking
America.
hell.
Yeah, which is if you look at that from today's standards, you're like, what the fuck? Like that is the amount of like health and safety and procedures and shit we have today, which yeah can be annoying, but it's for good reason, clearly,
Yeah,
because
like
like
I would honestly take like a gridlock of a process than
yeah,
just getting on a boat unprepared for something like this. Like it's not.
yeah,
It's like getting in a plane and you're like, does this have enough fuel to get us there? And it's like, oh, we'll check in a bit. I'd imagine so, right? And then just taking
yeah,
off. Like,
exactly. It's ridiculous. It's a lot of things. It's naivety. But it's I guess it's just it's like I say, it's no one specific thing. It's a storm of events
Hmm.
which caused it all, really,
is
and
it
tragically so.
is it true that if the Titanic had hit the iceberg dead on and hadn't tried to stay
Yes.
course, that it would have stayed up? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Fuck.
It would have just like it would have just I think it would have just been knocked back a little bit and then just like carried on. But yeah,
Oh,
that is true.
right, I don't know. I don't. This is unusual, but it reminds me of in the Assassin's Creed games where you can go on the boats and you have the boat combat.
Yes.
If you charge dead in, you'll lose a little bit of health, but not a lot of health.
Yeah.
If you try and swerve in and out and you get clipped, you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weirdly enough, it's true. But you can see why though. Like
Why
they
hadn't the
know that.
captain played Black Flag to prepare
Like
for the
you
voyage?
if they did just drive straight into you, like, what the fuck are you doing? That's ridiculous. Why would they possibly do that?
Mm,
Of course they're gonna try and avoid it because that's what anyone would do.
yeah.
Even if you like kind of had that knowledge, I think it'd still be a part of you which would be like, no, let's just try get out of the way and just reduce the risk altogether.
Yeah.
But yeah, they
There's
didn't unfortunately.
a couple of things. We're approaching time, but the
Yes.
what I was going to ask you, and I agree, and I'm interested if they're the same kind of moments. You spoke of this saying like it's kind of got some horror elements in it,
Yep.
not in terms of movie stuff, just more like horrific bits that got you. Were there any like standout moments?
Yeah. There's like I say, yeah, it's not necessarily spooky. It's more just like
Rose. There is a very funny moment where Rose is just running around with an axe that it could have gone in a very different way.
that's one of them. That is genuinely one of them.
Yeah.
That is the moments like where she's rushing around the empty hallways and cabins is kind of horror like, as even in the way it's shot. Like it goes into that POV aspect.
Yeah. There's a
And then
specific
it's like
shot with the hallway. It's after Rose has just come off the stairs and the lights are flickering behind her, and
yeah,
it does feel very horror esque.
absolutely, yeah, and James Cameron's got a history in horror, so that's not surprising at all. And then the moment where she goes back down with the axe, and like the lights are a bit dimmed now, and the electricity's flickering in the background. Again, moments of horror. And then it's really just mostly the sinking sequence because there's just a lot of stuff where you look at it and you just think that is genuinely horrific. The biggest one to stand out, especially from watching it last night, is definitely the frozen dead baby because
Yeah. Oh yeah.
it's haunting to see that image. And then as well, just like the boat slowly drifting through just the sea of dead frozen people
Yeah.
as well. It's really haunting.
I think so. There's the two biggest things for me. There's one specific moment where they're there's like a good minute sequence where they go, "Holy fuck, is that an iceberg?" And then it's just a case of every single moving part of the boat in terms of like all the how the boat
Yeah,
operates, how it runs.
the engines
Yeah,
and yeah.
and it's a mad scramble to get this information to everyone that needs it, and then
It's a
like
really tense scene.
it is
It's really good build up of tension in that
it's
moment.
super tense. But I love that you get to see
Yeah,
the scale of how many people it will take to stop this, and also then
yeah,
when it doesn't stop, and when they start locking down the doors, and you realize in that moment everyone in the engine room like, and the times that we've seen the below decks up to this point are very like, there's Irish music playing, it's cheery, haha, like it's a party. It's like, no, they're locking down those doors, and like this is an hour before the movie ends, before anyone seriously even knows what the fuck's going on, and it's like there's
yeah,
already a good, I don't know, 20 people dead down there.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
that like the slow shutting of the doors, and it's funny, right? But I have a thing against slow shutting doors, and I have it ever since 2005's Dalek aired. Um, when Rose is running
Okay.
down the corridor, and the doctor's like, "I can't open this fucking door. Like, you need to get through it, or you're dead." Um,
Yeah.
Something about it has stuck with me, and I remembered it while watching it today, and I was like, something about a slow closing door, it terrifies me. Having to squeeze through it, like having to get through it in time. What if my leg gets stuck? What if my leg comes off? Like it scares the fuck out of me. I don't know why.
That last shot of that guy just squeezing through just in time, it's
It's
scary, man.
terrifying.
Like
Yeah,
every time he just gets through, I'm like, oh, it makes me so anxious watching
it's
it.
it's one of the things where you know he's going to get through, but you in the moment you just don't know it. Like I don't
Yeah,
know what it is because
yeah.
you've seen it. You know he gets through.
That's the same with like last night. Like bizarrely enough, I was when the ship actually hit the iceberg. When it just before when they were doing the maneuver and trying to turn out the way, there was a moment where I was like, "Oh, come on, you can do it. You can do it." Like,
Yeah,
come on, I know, I know the movie. I know history. It sinks, but because it's so tense, you do for a moment. You get caught up. You're like, "Come on, you can do it. You can make
you
it."
do though, and
Uh,
it and that's
but
that's the best thing this movie can do because it's a very clear sign
yes.
that it's working.
We're very short on time. I have to get back to work in 5 minutes. But one thing, I would be absolutely remiss if I did not bring up the door and the
Yeah,
controversy
go on.
around the door. So this has been discussed for many, many years now. It's a fucking meme. It's been a meme for years. But people always say Jack could have fit on the door. Watch the fucking movie.
He tries.
No, he couldn't. He tried to get on the door and it fucking keeled over.
Jack
Fuck you.
Jack's moment in that is going, "Hey, one of us is dead, and you're already
I'd
there."
rather it be me
Yeah,
than you.
that's the
So
point. He dies to give her the life. It couldn't be clearer. Like,
I've been frustrated at this door thing for years.
yeah,
Watch,
I've seen it. Like when I've seen that debate pop up on Twitter or whatever, I'm just like, it's in the film.
yeah, justice for Rose. I say
Justice
she
for her.
gets,
She don't deserve that.
yeah, she doesn't deserve this hatred.
Yeah.
What else? Yeah, obvious stuff. This is still to this day, tied for the most Oscar wins. It's got 11 Oscar wins, tied with Return of the King and Ben Hur. It
And
was number one at the box office for 15 weeks.
geez,
So from 19th of December, my birthday, 97, to the 3rd of April, 1998, it was number one for that entire time,
fucking
which
hell.
is, yeah, that's fucking insane.
Did did MCU not put anything out that year?
I didn't know, which is why this was also the first movie to cross $1 billion.
Yeah.
And then it was superseded by Avatar. So for a while, James Cameron had both the first and second highest grossing movies.
It's got
Whereas
nothing
now,
on Avengers Endgame. That's why.
well, no, Avengers Endgame is number two now because Avatar got re-released.
It's
So
a cheat. It's a cheat.
so uh, James Cameron has both number one and number two. Still, this is still in third place as the highest grossing movies
Go on,
of
James
all time.
Cameron.
What else? What else?
You just flicking. Are you
Uh,
going through the highlights of your notes?
I'm just quickly flicking through my notes. Oh yeah, the for a movie in 1997, the CG is actually quite good in this. There's a little bit of a wonky green screen here and there, but for the most part, it's really good.
It's rare.
Really,
I think it's really
yeah.
rare. Yeah.
Yeah. And fun fact, this movie actually cost more than the actual Titanic.
I read this. This is fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know like the figure in 1912 money, but like in 97 money, it would have cost around about 150 million for the actual Titanic. But this movie cost 200 million. So that's
Insane.
just fun. Yeah, that's just fun.
Insane.
Very much so.
I wanted to bring up the point of just imagine being a young man that survives the Titanic in 1912, and you're like, cool. Do you know what? That was a terrifying ordeal. I'm glad I made it out and alive. 2 years later, off to war.
Yeah. Brutal.
Yeah,
Fucking
and
brutal.
you're like, wow, I can't believe I survived that. A what? Oh, off to another war. Where they probably died, unless you're that guy in white who's in the movie or something.
Yeah.
So yeah,
What a hero. Yeah, truly tragic stuff.
I
And
know.
then
I know what time period I didn't want to be born in.
yes, absolutely. And then the last note I have, I did find this on IMDb, but it's fucking bizarre, so I had to bring it up. On the last night of shooting in Nova Scotia, Canada, one or more criminals mixed dissociative hallucinogenic (PCP) into the clam chowder served to the cast and crew. 80 people were taken ill. More than 50 were taken to the hospital. And hold on, was the actual stuff? James Cameron noticed that one crew member was demanding to see a priest. The director of photography was leading a conga line with no one behind them. The assistant director was talking to Cameron over a walkie-talkie while looking directly at him, just a few feet in front of him, and she even stabbed him in the cheek with a pen when he brought this up to her. He realized that the chowder had been spiked with hallucinogenic drugs.
What the fuck?
Are
you serious?
Yeah, that's genuine.
And who did this? Who
night,
spiked it?
they don't know exactly who it was. They think it was like someone who was probably let go and disgruntled or something. But yeah, someone spiked the food, and then everyone was just fucking tripping off their balls for the last night.
Fucking hell. I mean, I love that. You're trying to don't spike drinks. Don't do it.
Yes.
But at the same time, that's very funny.
It is very funny. It's very funny. It's also bad. Don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it, but it's funny.
It is funny. I respect it, but I also don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is Titanic.
That is the titular Titanic. I've been saying that all morning.
Great. Good for you.
I know. Right, next week we're going to be doing this.
In college, they called me perfectly adequate Hanson.
They used to call me anal girl. I was very neat and organized.
Wowee, we genuinely don't know what that one is. Or maybe two, maybe a game, maybe a play, maybe a movie. Who knows? It's probably going to be something really.
Lawrence, I've got to get back to work.
Nathan's got work. Give us 5 stars. You can review the podcast. Like I just said, give us 5 stars when you review it. Follow us. We are on Twitter and on Instagram at Another Happy Pod. New episodes go out Fridays at 10 a.m. And Nathan has to go to work. So sayonara, people, and don't get on any big boats.
Well, they're mostly safe these days, but also don't because they're bad for the environment. Anyway, bye.
Classism.
Yes, classism. Eat the rich, kids. Eat the rich.